Hi traders, welcome back to the channel. Well, I got a lot of questions regarding risk reward, where do I put my stop, how do I enter, confirmation, blah, blah. But I really don't get too many questions on where my target is, where my exit strategy lies. Sure, I get a lot of, what's your risk reward, which would imply where my exit would go. Or do you put your target at a certain indicator? What tools do you use to develop your target? So looking back at my journal this year, I realized more than half my trades don't include any of them. Let's take a look at some of the exit strategies that no one's telling you about. So pretty interesting topic today. So before we get in, if you haven't clicked the subscribe button or click the like button, the whole works. Do so now when you get the opportunity. Really appreciate that. So before we get into some of these outside the box ideas that I use, how about we go back a little bit in time and look at some core valid exit strategies from who other than Etienne.
So today we'll focus on exits.
Gotta love it.
Now before we start, the biggest myth as always is to think that there's an optimal way to do things. The first way I use to take profit, basically, and this is still what I'm using like up to today pretty much, and probably will use more in the future also, is to have a fixed take profit. So you enter your trade, and based on your stop loss, you put your take profit. If the market hits a take profit, good. If not, it's okay. As long as you stay consistent with that, you're going to see probably more success than people who change their take profit every single day.
I love it. I mean, he's gotta love this video. Oh my God, he's gonna hate me. But really, it's true. Just sometimes the core thing about this trailing, take your stiff profit, take your money, rinse, wash, repeat, move on to the next one. Love it, E. So let's see what he's got next under his sleeve.
What you're going to need to do with that type of take profit is backtesting. Whether it's going to be a script or manual, figure out what is the optimal way of taking profit. Is it at 1-to-1, 2-to-1, maybe some partial take profit that you can place in the market?
I mean, these principles still apply. I think this was done probably 2017, 2018. Basic core principles still apply. Let's see what he's got next.
The other way of taking profit applies a little bit more to trend trading, in my opinion, is to have a trailing take profit. But that does not gonna make sense that much if you are sideways, because the price is very likely to pull back and go back and forth and hit your moving take profit. So if you are trading trends, then you can have a take profit that you move over time as soon as the trend goes up.
I mean, really core basic principles of trend trading, and love it. Some of the best trades I've had this year, the home run ones, were exactly those principles. So they still line true today. Let's see the last what he's got here in the last 30 seconds.
Okay, that works also. There are many ways of moving your stop loss, of course, and this is where people are going to get confused a little bit. So pick one that you think works and then test the different ways. Of course, people are going to have different opinions on this. Some non-experienced traders are going to say fixed take profit are bullshit. I've heard that coach say it's not good or whatever. But you figure out what works best for you, you test what you find, and if it's good, you can use it, right? But don't change every single week, because everything in trading you change every single week, it's not going to work. And the only way to be consistent in trading is to be consistent in your action.
I mean, gotta love the baby face. I mean, these principles really do apply. Basic stuff. And I love the fact that Etienne brings up back testing, because really what you want to do is validate that with your strategy. And then, you have to leave some support, mathematical reasons why to have the particular strategy, exit strategy that you're looking for. So great stuff, Etienne. It's good to turn back the clock once in a while and to really validate that these principles still hold true. So like I promised, how about we talk about a few exit strategies that I use that are a little outside the box and see if some of those resonate with you. They're not your basic cookie cutter type exit strategies, but I wanted to explore that and get your comments, see what you think, see if there's some of these you may want to think about or try coming into the new year. Good timing for that. So let's get to the first one. All right, so the first one I use a lot is what I call sort of the rubber band target, where we're looking for price to extend beyond its normal price behavior based on a certain, say, indicator. So what I'll use is, I use a lot, is the VWAP, right? I especially use it in equity futures trading. And what I look at is to see where price is in relation to VWAP. So if VWAP is going to act sort of like a magnet or a balanced area, which it doesn't all the time, all right, that's why trend markets keep going. Well, I want to compare price in relationship to the current VWAP. And when that differential reaches a certain amount, I'll just hit my target. Right? I'll just get out of the trade. So in the S&P futures, and this adjusts based on certain things like volatility, but say I have a move where price is 20 points, 20 ES points away from the VWAP. All right, I'm going to buy it at VWAP. That's my supposed entry. All right, that's basically the support where I'm looking for. And in this example, you'll see here that price is extended, and I'm measuring price to VWAP. Now, both are moving, right? Because when price goes up, the VWAP is also slowly creeping up as well. So if price goes up $3, doesn't mean that the differential moved up $3. Probably moved more like 2 or 2.5. All right. When it gets to that point where that rubber band is sort of stretched too far, I just get out. All right. You could use Bollinger Bands and things like that, but a little sort of quirky way for me to at least define overextension. And that's where I'm just going to take my profits there. So that's the first methodology which I look at, and it's been working really well so far. You have to have obviously trending markets and markets that can move. It's not going to really help you much in volatile and low volatility markets, but lately we've had the vol, so I've been using it and it's been working well. This sort of rubber band target methodology that I use. All right, so the next one and the next two actually involve the options market in a certain way. The first one I'm going to do is when I'm trading stock and I have a target that I want to hit, what I will do is I'll take my target, just as normally as a winning trade, and then I'm going to take a portion of those profits. In my book is around 15%. And then I'm going to replace that with out of the money options. Okay, I'm going to go out a decent amount, like 90 days, 120 days to expiration. It's sort of like a YOLO play, but I'm going to take some of those profits, so it's really no loss to me per se, and I'm going to go for it using those. It's a shot. I'm taking it, but I also still maintain the exposure of having the long play. You can go the opposite and go well into the money on some of these options, like you'll see here, but I find that it's more valuable just to sort of give it a shot. I had the stock anyway. Rather than let it run, let me keep my profits, take a portion of it, take a chance. All right, that's another option I have as far as having my target. I still maintain the long bias in this situation, but I'm doing it with much less exposure and sort of a cheap shot. Some may not find this appropriate, sort of like throwing good money after bad, but every once in a while you're going to get a hit. And this year, this particular exit strategy was the very reason I had my best year ever. So I'm really excited about it. I know I can't keep dipping into the well, but every once in a while where you have a high flyer that you want to take profits in, but you still want to have the exposure, may want to consider it for a YOLO shot. All right, last one, also involving the options market. So say I'm in a stock. You'll see here an example where price is moving in my favor. All right. Well, what I want to do is rather than set a target price, I'm going to sell call options above it. All right. So sort of like this catch me if you can type scenario. What I'm doing is I still want the stock to go higher, but I'm selling call options, and I know maybe some confusing for some, but I'm basically using the options market to collect premium. So every month I'm collecting additional income, kind of like a rental on a house, the house being the stock that I own. And what happens is I have an obligation to sell my shares at a certain price to the person who bought that on the other side. So I have no problem. My target is the certain target. Say I want, in this case, $40 a share. So what I'm going to do is sell 40 calls. I'm going to be collecting premium, rental on the house, until the house value, so to speak, gets to 40. If it doesn't get to 40, I still collect the monthly revenue every month. All right, it's sort of like a side hustle in a sense. All right, very common for options traders who are very engaged in the markets this way. But rather than just sell it, say, okay, I'm going to sell it at 40. That's my target anyway. So if it hits 40, I'm going to get rid of it. Well, in this case, I'm just going to give it to someone else. I have an obligation to do so. But in the meantime, why don't I put a sort of a tenant in that house and collect monthly income? It doesn't sound like much. Like in a case like this, you're looking at less than maybe $100 per contract. But if you have 3 or 4 contracts and you have multiple positions, this sort of side hustle really adds up. And what it does is ultimately lower your cost basis on the trade itself. So That is really an interesting sort of outside the box if you're not involved in options. If you are trading options, this is a very common methodology. I use this, it's sort of like watching paint dry to an extent, but understand that some people say the fear is, well, I don't want the stock to go and then I have to give it away. Well, the whole idea is you were going to sell it at that price anyway. So why don't you put a tenant in the house in the meantime while you're waiting for that to happen? This methodology that I've sort of incorporated into my trading about 5 years ago has really changed really my outlook and the way I look at trading more now than actually selling stock at a certain target. Unless I'm sort of scalping, that's a different situation. But on my swing or even longer term positions, immediately when I buy a particular stock, if they have options, I'm selling calls above it. And also I can do it on the other side too, selling puts as well. But understand there's sort of risk to this where you're capping your gains, right? In lieu of the right to collect premium. But understand that you're limiting your gains at the price that you were going to sell it anyway. So why don't you sort of collect some rental income on the top? This is a methodology that I use, a little advanced for some, I understand, but this is a methodology that I pretty much have on every open stock position, with the exception of some sort of YOLO trades, like Bitcoin this year. I didn't really sell too much premium because, I was hoping that it would, kind of skyrocket and I don't want to get caught in front of a train. Also, when I trade like pharmaceuticals and things like that, I don't want to really sell premium because you never know that, that one drug that gets approved that goes to the moon. I want to be on the side of that and not limit my gain. So I'm very selective, but at the same time, it's become a very effective and kind of standard for me exit strategy. So I hope you got some ideas on some of the exit strategies that I use. I know they're a little outside the box for many, but again, just get your feet wet. Take a look at them, see if one or two of those, are a good fit for you coming into the new year. Obviously, there's always standard, 2-to-1 targets and things like that, and that's fine. I just, would rather provide sort of outside the box value, give you something to think about going into the new year. All right. I hope you enjoyed this, but really, let's do a deep dive. Click on the link below. I'm going to do a separate video by how I walk through the actual options chains, which ones to pick, which delta. I know that some of those Greeks get a little confusing. I just want to get the good, clean tenant into the house and allow me to sleep at night while collecting that extra side hustle money. All right. Click on the link below, and we'll see you on the other side.